actually going to make some real-time changes to the speaking program because we think it's most important that you're hearing from families that have been directly impacted. But again, I thank you all for being here today as we gather in community and solidarity for our immigrant neighbors who are under attack by this hostile administration. We convene here today to make it plain, hands off our immigrant neighbors. We are grateful for the partnership of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, La Colaborativa, Neighbor to Neighbor, Luce, Immigrant Family Services Institute, Asian American Resource Workshop, and of course, my indefatigable and dedicated colleagues at the municipal and state level who are fighting each and every day to protect our immigrant communities. To the families and individuals who have been impacted by these unconscionable and unjust raids and attacks on your livelihoods and your families, those joining us today and those across the Massachusetts 7th, the Commonwealth, and the country, we see you, we hear you, and we are fighting for you. The harrowing immigration raids that we're seeing across Massachusetts are absolutely shameful and in many cases unlawful. And we will not let this blatant disregard of humanity and constitutional rights continue. Immigrants are our neighbors, our friends, our co-workers, our fellow worshipers, and more. But the fear in community is palpable. We see school children crying in their teachers' arms, afraid that they're going to come home to no parents. We see a spike in no-shows and cancellations in health clinics, as patients would rather miss critical care than risk detainment. We see elders carrying their medications around with them every day, everywhere they go, for fear of being abducted and sent somewhere without access to necessary health care. These are real people, hard-working people, patriots even, who contribute so much to our city and whose labor and contributions are essential to its daily functions, and even young people. Students who show up every day in our schools, soon to give back to the country they call home. Real people whose lives are being disrupted and damaged by the harmful scare tactics from the Trump White House. It's happening in the Massachusetts 7th, in communities like East Boston, Everett, Chelsea, Somerville, Brighton, Randolph, and in other parts of the state. Donald Trump has used a timeless tactic, pointing at our most vulnerable and blaming them for every hardship, scapegoating them for every societal ill, while he is out here making life harder for the American people. And I want to make something abundantly clear. It's not an immigrant who is taking away your health care. Billionaires and Republicans in Congress are. It's not an asylum seeker that's jacking up your rent. It's the billionaires and Wall Street CEOs that Trump is filling his cabinet with. It's not your immigrant neighbor that the cost of living is so damn high. It's Donald Trump and his reckless, chaotic tariffs. Donald Trump is a dictator, plain and simple. He wants to divide us. He wants to silence dissenting voices, dismantle our democracy, and strip us of our constitutional fundamental rights. He wants a citizenry that is ignorant and uninformed. He wants a citizenry that is inactive. He wants a citizenry that is indifferent to the suffering of their neighbors. But there's one thing I know about the MA7th. We stand up for our neighbors. We stand up for our community, and we don't let anyone mess with our family. Donald Trump and his cronies, like his border czar Tom Homan, have attacked immigrant families and used anti-immigrant slurs time and time again, but they've done absolutely nothing to make us safer. All they've done is traumatize kids, delay cancer patients' chemo, and cost elders their dialysis. They've uprooted families and upended the lives of those who have done nothing but make the Massachusetts 7th a better place to live. The cruelty is truly the point. These actions are void of common sense and compassion. From here in East Boston to Chelsea to Randolph and Everett and all across our Commonwealth, we stand here today and call on ICE to stand down and leave our hardworking community members alone. This is our home, and these shameless rogue agents are not welcome here. And with that, I will invite Yvonne Espinoza Madrigal, Executive Director of Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, who has been doing critical work to protect our communities and working with some of our impacted families. And I'll bring him to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Thank you, Congresswoman. It is an honor to be here with you this morning. My name is Iván Espinosa Madrigal. I'm the Executive Director of Lawyers for Civil Rights. I am here to introduce Kenya Guerrero, a resident of Chelsea who was attacked on Mother's Day on the way to church while she was driving her family, including 3 children in the car, and immigration officials broke her window and forcibly retrieved her husband from the car, removing him and taking him away. This has been a traumatic experience for Kenya and her 3 children, the youngest 3 years old. This is also a violation of clearly established law. The law says that they cannot open the car door without justification, that the car's interior as a whole is subject to Fourth Amendment protection from unreasonable intrusions by the police. This is precisely why we're standing with Kenya Guerrero and her family today, and why we continue to represent the city of Somerville and the city of Chelsea in litigation against the Trump administration to make sure that those sanctuary cities can continue to do the important work that they do every day. Kenya Guerrero will speak next.
I want to say thank you to Congresswoman and everyone here that is supporting my family and our communities. My name is Kenya Guerrero, and I am married to Daniel Flores Martinez. Today, I share my experience being stopped by immigration on our way to church. They surrounded us, broke the car window, and took my husband in front of my children by force. They were violent. I am asking for my husband, Daniel Flores Martinez, to be released. He needs to come home. We need him home. Please release him. And any questions, I will turn it to my to a lawyer of civil rights.
Thank you, Kenya. Thank you. Okay, I do think it's important that we are centering the voices of those families that have been directly impacted. Mercedes?
No, I just think that is not, and it's very unhuman what is happening, and we need to speak up. We need to let everybody knows what's going on. My husband got arrested, and it didn't do anything, and it's just not fair for him, so I'm here to speak up for him.
And her husband is, he's in Louisiana being detained there. Again, he's been charged with no crime. And he also is a diabetic and is receiving inadequate medical attention. Mm-hmm. So this is, torn this family apart. And every day she's fearful of him being in a health crisis because of the conditions under which he is being detained, or I would say warehoused more aptly. Exactly. But I'm grateful to the courage and the bravery of our families who are here sharing their stories today. This has been violent. It has been traumatic. And I know Mercedes is joined by her son today as well. And we had a family earlier, Yolanda, whose young daughter Michelle is also here. And it's just been heartbreaking that children are having to fight in this way to keep their families together and to fight for their very futures.
I think everybody here heard my voice and Kenya's voice and Mercedes. We need to speak up. We have the right to speak up.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for your bravery. Yes, Yolanda. Yes. Okay, where is Mercedes? Okay, there. All right. The names are wrong in the order. I apologize. Okay. Okay.
Buenos días, mi nombre es Mercedes, soy inmigrante de El Salvador, soy miembro del grupo de mujeres de Centro Presente. Desde hace 4 años vivo aquí en East Boston.
Good morning, my name is Mercedes. I'm an immigrant from El Salvador. I have been a member of Centro Presente's women's group for 4 years, and I live here in East Boston.
La semana pasada mi esposo José fue detenido por ICE en su lugar de trabajo. Mi esposo está amparado por el TPS, no tiene ningún récord criminal y tiene más de 30 años viviendo en este país. Después de un día de acción organizado por Centro Presente, mi esposo fue liberado por ICE.
Last week, my husband, Jose, was detained by ICE at his workplace. He is protected by TPS, has no criminal record, and has lived in this country for over 30 years. After a day of action organized by Centro Presente, my husband was released by ICE.
Los agentes de ICE que detuvieron a mi esposo le dijeron que solo las personas que han nacido aquí tienen derecho, que no importa tener un permiso de trabajo.
The ICE agents who detained my husband told him that only people born here have rights, and that it didn't matter if they had a work permit.
Él estuvo detenido en Burlington por 2 días y una noche, en una celda con al menos 50 personas, durmiendo en el piso, sin comer debidamente y recibiendo maltrato, en condiciones inhumanas, recibiendo un trato racista, injusto e inhumano.
Jose was detained in Burlington for 2 days and 1 night, in a cell with at least 50 other people, sleeping on the floor without proper food and being mistreated in inhumane conditions. He suffered racist, unjust, and inhumane treatment by ICE agents.
Después de esta experiencia, hemos quedado con mucho trauma. Mi esposo y yo no podemos dormir. Me da miedo salir a la calle. Me da miedo llevar a mi hija a la escuela. Nuestra hija de 12 años, que nació en este país, tiene ataques de ansiedad.
After this experience, we are deeply traumatized. My husband and I can't sleep. I'm afraid to go out. I'm afraid to take my daughter to school. Our 12-year-old daughter, who was born in this country, has anxiety attacks.
Tenemos que parar este dolor en las familias, porque nuestro caso no es el único. Son miles de familias las que están pasando la misma situación. Nosotros venimos huyendo de la guerra, la violencia y la pobreza en nuestros países de origen, y ahora enfrentamos aquí el miedo y la persecución.
We have to stop this treatment of families by ICE. We have to stop inflicting this trauma on families. Our case is not unique. Thousands of families are going through the same thing. We fled war, violence, and poverty in our countries of origin, and now we face fear and persecution here.
Hago un llamado a la gobernadora y a la fiscalía para que investiguen el maltrato que las personas inmigrantes estamos recibiendo por parte de los oficiales de ICE. Muchas gracias.
I call on the governor and the Attorney General's office to investigate the mistreatment immigrants are receiving at the hands of ICE officers. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michelle. Last week, me and my dad were separated because ICE has took him away from me. It was one of the worst pain I have been through, and it wasn't easy for me. I just want to say, could there be no more separation from family? Because family belong together, not separated. Thank you very much.
Again, so we're going to just change the program in real time here. Out of a generosity of spirit, my colleagues in government felt it was most important just to hear from the impacted families. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Congresswoman, are you aware that immigration officials are at the courthouse today speaking of their results of this immigration operation? Do you have any comment of, on their strategy or the way they're sort of seeing this as a way to crack down on what they believe to be illegal immigration in Massachusetts?
You know, I keep referring a lot to the pandemic as sort of the closest reference point that I have to the moment we find ourselves in, because it was just wholesale harm. The thing about the pandemic, though, is that even if we could make assumptions about who would bear that hurt the most, it was indiscriminate harm. This is wholesale harm that is very discriminate. It is very precise, and it has nothing to do with public safety. This is just about a targeting, a cruelty onto our immigrant neighbors and families. And as Michelle said so eloquently, families belong together. You know, so that's exactly why we wanted to bring everyone together today, just to center the humanity of the devastating impacts and implications of what's happening in this moment. They're going after our community members. They want to win points with Trump and literally turn Massachusetts into some sort of scoreboard while ripping families apart. This is a game to them. And these are real people, people who love and are loved, people who are connected to families, who are connected to communities. And again, we're not just making an appeal out of some altruism or benevolence. You know, this is about an enforcement of constitutional rights and the actual law, while they're moving in ways that are completely racist, rogue, and lawless. But it's also an acknowledgement of the numerous contributions that immigrants make to culture, to civic life, and to our economy, to our health care, you know, to our agriculture, to hospitality, to every facet of our communities and our economy. So, you know, sadly, it's just it's a predictable play, and they are definitely looking to make an example of Massachusetts. And the aim of this is to sow fear and division, to intimidate and to silence and to stop people from living their lives. Stop people from going to healthcare appointments, from going to their place of work, from going to their place of worship.
Forgive me, one clarifying question for Ms. Kenya. I wanted to understand what day this happened. Or you said it was on Mother's Day. Where were you? Were you looking to go to church in the Boston area? And
Yeah, we were heading to Revere. We're going on our way to church, and that's when we got
To church, someplace the occupant of the Oval Office knows nothing about. Yeah.
There's a list that's been circulated by DHS of kind of places that they're trying to target on sanctuary areas, and Boston, Massachusetts is on there. So I kind of have a two-part question. One, what does it kind of bode for Massachusetts that it's become a place that the government has set its eyes on? And two, like at the state level, what are you hoping to see come out of Beacon Hill on, statewide policies?
I'll defer to my state colleagues. I mean, again, I'll just say that I have a tremendous, I'm grateful to call the Commonwealth of Massachusetts my home, and to call my partners on the state and municipal level exactly that, my partners in this coordinated response to mitigate the harms and the policy violence of this administration. And I will defer to them so that they can speak more pointedly to their efforts.
I just want to hear from you on the fact that DHS has put Boston and Massachusetts on this list. What is that? How do you react to it?
Well, I mean, again, using the pandemic again as an example, I knew that my district in Massachusetts 7th would be one of the hardest hit by the pandemic, for a host of reasons. And I anticipated with this second Trump occupancy that not only would Massachusetts be a target, but the MA 7th would be most vulnerable to its policy violence. I mean, look, this was all predictable because it was written in black and white in Project 2025. That was not just a blueprint, it was a playbook for wholesale harm. And they are making good on that playbook and then some. So none of it is surprising, but it's no less devastating. And we find ourselves, working to combat lawlessness with the rule of law. So our defensive strategy remains litigation, which there are a number of suits that we have continued to win. But you have a Supreme Court that are, keep in the 7-2 ratios there, that are co-conspirators and accomplices in this extremist agenda, which again, I will say is an anti-freedom agenda. So it was predictable, but it is no less devastating, and our best defensive strategy is litigation, legislation. I keep saying when it comes to Washington, they have a majority, but it's a technical majority by 2 people. We just need 4 Republicans of conscience. 4 Republicans of conscience, and we can actually move legislation to mitigate the harm of this hostile administration that is participating in an active government takeover. So, what am I looking for from my colleagues on the state level? Honestly, they're just standing in the gap every day, looking at innovative tools and ways to mitigate this harm, to keep our communities truly safe, and to keep families together. Would anyone like to speak to state efforts? Anybody? You're okay? Anybody? Okay.
Congresswoman, I'm going to just say this in English and in Spanish. Part of the operation that ICE did last week was to go to immigration court, which we reported on, and detain people after hearings, even with continuances. So after an immigration judge said, yes, we can continue proceedings here. Is anyone here currently in immigration proceedings for any reason, like changing of status? And do you have any fears with all of this going on and your detained family members to go to immigration court?
If they are currently in legal proceedings, I would not recommend anyone coming forward to say that.
Yeah. So I will just say, we began today's convening by thanking everyone for the courage to show up, because we recognize in this moment, it takes tremendous courage to still convene, come together, to assemble. When the fear is credible and it is palpable all around, we certainly don't want to make anybody any more vulnerable. So I'm not gonna, if anyone here is experiencing that, but anecdotally, we receive those calls in our office all the time. I mean, again, constituents that are calling in, that have questions. That's why the most responsible thing that you can do is to be informed. There's so much misinformation, disinformation, malinformation. Executive orders are not law. And that's why, so many of these actions have been turned over by the courts. The issue is that the litigation takes longer, and the situations are so dire and the threats are so imminent that you're looking for that thing that will immediately alleviate the hurt and the harm. But in that way, our tools are limited. But we have tools. We have to use all of them. And again, as was the case with Rumeysa Ozturk, we were able to at least get her to a place of due process. But we hear anecdotally from families all the time that they're fearful of even participating under legal proceedings. But again, when you have an administration that is coming for people with work authorizations, with green cards, with student visas, asylum seekers, temporary protected status, and then a Supreme Court with the decision they made today around humanitarian parolees, again, it's a very, very challenging climate.
Is there any plan by your office or any other members of Congress to write to the Executive Office of Immigration Review that oversees the immigration courts to say, hey, we want protection for people who have to go to immigration court?
I have to try to keep up with my own efforts in that regard, because we are using every bit of power, the power of convening, the power of the pen as a lawmaker, and the power of my letterhead to call on that transparency and that lawful enforcement by this administration. I'm not aware of a specific effort, on that, but there are many other ways in which we have been engaging ICE and the administration and just letting them know that we are going to, I'm going to conduct congressional oversight, not only because I serve on the oversight committee, but because I have that authority as a member of Congress. Donald Trump, unfortunately, does not respect the co-equal branches of government, does not respect the role of Congress. Again, it's we find ourselves in an unprecedented moment that demands of us doing disruptive, unprecedented things to match their energy. They're flooding the zone. we have to do the same. But the reason why we're here today is that I just don't want people to lose in this devastating news that's being reported every day, that these are real people. These are the people that you live with, that you work with, that you worship with. They're not abstract, entities. I mean, we have children up here appealing for the preservation of their families and the safety of their communities. It's just a damning commentary on where we find ourselves.
Have you spoken to Ramesa Ostrich recently, and if so, how is she doing?
I haven't spoken to Ramesa since we welcomed her home, so I've not spoken to her directly, but I know, actually, I think later today, I'm supposed to, speak with her community, her team, so to get the status of where things are now.
Have you, I'm curious what you hear from your Republican colleagues on the Hill about all of this. I mean, publicly they're very supportive of a lot of this, but I wonder if privately they are horrified by what they're seeing, and if so, what does that say to you?
Yeah, here's what I would say is that whether you're talking about deep cuts to Medicaid healthcare, which is how so many people, including, in my district, people receive their health care through Medicaid for blood pressure medications, managing heart disease, asthma, whether you're talking about cuts to Social Security, or whether you're talking about the attacks on our immigrant neighbors. The reason why Trump, particularly when it comes to our immigrant neighbors, I think moves with these executive orders is because he knows that these things, he's trying to give his caucus cover. So he's doing everything and to sort of protect them, because the fact of the matter is that the lion's share of what this administration is doing is deeply unpopular. And when you have a Republican caucus that's more concerned with keeping a job than doing a job, if they really do understand the vulnerability of their seats, I think they would move differently, because they do care about keeping their job. They don't care about doing their job. Because they cared about doing their jobs, the things that we're all talking about here, these are not partisan issues. These are things that are to the betterment of our communities, our society, and our economy. And so these policies are just void of common sense. They're void of compassion. The cruelty is the point. This has nothing to do with law and order or public safety, everything to do with control. And again, their anti-freedom agenda. I mean, we have an occupant in the White House that has contempt for the Constitution, that has contempt for the rule of law, that has contempt for every person that calls this country home. So, look, I continue to make appeals to my colleagues on everything from community health centers to housing, to health care, to prioritize the people who sent them there. And if they don't want to work for the people who sent them there, then to get out of the way. It's just, it's unprecedented. It's unprecedented. But, Trump has perpetuated this culture of grievance and retribution. And so they're fearful. And they're operating in ways that are cowardice and complicit in this wholesale harm. But I think that's why he does so much by executive action, because he knows this stuff is unpopular. He can't get a caucus's buy-in on this, and they'll be fearful of losing their seats. But they're going to wear it regardless. So I want to say that, because when people keep saying strategically, maybe they wish we would talk less about Trump and less about Musk. Dr. King said it's important to dramatize the evil. We have to make them wear it. People have to be very clear about who are the architects of this harm, and it is the Republicans. Anything else on topic? Yeah. All right. Thank you all for your participation. Mm-hmm.